Hey guys, Robbie K here with another movie review. We're looking today at kind of our first of three, and with it, definitely one that most people may not have heard of. Going more along the lines of a historical drama and biography, we take a little more to the serious side and away from the fiction when it comes to today's work. So, what is it? Well, it's about one of the darker times in our history, the Holocaust, or I should say the repercussions of the Holocaust, as we travel into Operation Finale. Now, essentially what the movie is about is essentially a group of Israeli Jewish people trying to essentially work together to bring home one of the last, I guess, big generals of the Holocaust planning. And with it, going through the lot of political struggle it takes to bring him to justice. Will it work out? Well, if you look at the history lessons, you already know the answer to that. But nevertheless, here's the movie review of the rendition of it. Our stage one review is pretty simplistic. The movie actually does a fantastic job bringing this serious event to life, primarily with the acting being the mainstay of this movie. Fantastic lead roles, primarily by Oscar Isaac and Ben Kingsley, establish a relationship that's complex, very earnest, and very engaged and involving to really bring the whole thing to life. That's actually part of the thing that kept me the most into the movie. So, bravo to them for being able to kind of bring that session to life. As for the rest of the movie, the pace is actually pretty decent, a little slow at times, but for the most part, does a fantastic job of really hooking those biography people in as you get entrenched into the drama of bringing a war criminal to life. Now, of course, you're not expecting too much action from it, but decent amount of suspense to engage you. It just needed a little bit of editing and a little bit of work to removing some time in order to really warrant the full time. Maybe a little after 2 hours was not the best choice. In addition, perhaps a little more engagement from other characters could have gone well, but overall, a solid movie that I can say for the acting and the support of the movement alone should kind of warrant a garnish to the theater. However, there are going to be two other films that probably have a little more bang for their buck, but we'll take a look at those as the week comes on. As for Stage 2 review, let's get into the details. The likes come from, as I've already said, the acting being the main reason you go to this movie. Oscar Isaacs and Ben Kingsley have stepped up their game, with Oscar Isaac kind of stepping away from the Star Wars role into a much more serious and engaging role with a little less flyboy in him. As for Ben Kingsley, the man is one of my favorite actors for a reason, just because of his ability to be a chameleon and the ability to really bring almost every role he plays to life, be it comedic, simplistic, or in some cases CGI Panther from Bagheera's in the Jungle Book. Anyway, kind of continuing on, the truth is that the rest of the characters do a great job. You get formed into this committee who are really trying to bring justice to a man who potentially needs justice, all the while trying to look at the duality of the monster himself. So the light comes also from the fact that you have this fantastic dive into the psyche, and that drama component is actually interesting because it's not the typical stuff we see on TGIT and the I love romance movies, but instead you've got sorry, I got a dog sniffing me. But instead, you have this just very engaging, it's almost like reading a book. The mindset of those going through this horrible crisis, trying to find the balance of justice, forgiveness, and vengeance all in one. So the duality of the mind is fantastic in here, as you really get the feeling and the trauma that these people felt. In addition, the setting is beautiful. The pacing is probably my next like. It takes a lot for me to say that the drama doesn't bore me. This movie did a really nice job keeping me engaged into all the stuff that kind of is going down in it. The details were a little truncated at times and a little complex, but at the same time, were still, for the most part, very easy to follow and a good piecing together to really kind of keep you interested in these people's stories. I have to say that I injected some class, too. Sometimes in order to bring the I guess the more memorable pieces, it requires one to have to go dark. And surprisingly, they did this very well without going too dark. Yes, there are still some horrible things that you may witness secondhand, but at the same time, it could have been a lot worse given today's lack of censorship and wanting to do more. Or I should say show more and us get over it. The movie does, again, kind of balance all these classes and really gave you the complete picture without giving you the complete picture. So bravo there. And again, in regards to it, it's essentially very detailed enough to try to keep all the components together and make as much of it relevant. So bravo to that. Now, in terms of dislikes, the biggest thing comes from the fact that we don't kind of get the stories of everyone. They kind of hashtag it. And I agree, there's 2 characters that this is mainly about. But since both of those characters were integrated with the rest of them very much, great portrayals and they all played their role, but kind of needed to dive into their stories a little more if you were going to justify a 2-hour time, in my opinion. Again, some of them are fantastic, funny humor and good supporting, but probably about 60% of the cast could have been removed, and we wouldn't have been the wiser based on how this thing goes. So that's probably the biggest dislike I had. The next thing is that if it didn't need to go that route, and they wanted to keep the symbolism and kind of speak to the people that that they're targeting, then what they really needed to do was probably cut about 20 minutes out of it to not do a 2-hour film. Again, in this day and age where we have so many movie options, 2 hours is sometimes pushing it, and maybe the director's cut could have held this. But for the most part, all the symbology and the kind of paying homage to the people who deserve to be paid homage to, we could have probably still cut 20 minutes out of some other parts and not been the wiser. In regards to the acting, a few people are a little overdone, but I can't really call this a big dislike. It was not that bad, not too over the top. It was just some characters needed some more time and investment if they were going to put the work into it that they did. And I guess outside of that, a little cliche at times, but hey, what movie really isn't when it comes to this oversaturation of the market? Regardless, the movie overall is a lot simplistic and is a good, and that, for instance, can be bad and good. Simplistic in the case of that it's not flashy and maybe not as exciting, so it's not going to speak to as many audience members, but also in the fact that this was good storytelling that didn't have to be flashy in order to be entertaining and essentially relevant / invest your time in. So that's where it brings me to the next point, to kind of a very difficult decision. Should you go see this in theaters? The answer, in my opinion, is for the acting and some of the good quality parts, yeah. It's a movie that does a good job storytelling, and while it can be slow at times, which is one of the dislikes just because of the length, the pacing is good, that this feels like you're reading a book just, with your eyes. Well, I guess you always got to read with your eyes. Anyway, not so much reading, but watching a book, and just really getting immersed into the characters' lives. Yeah, they needed to expand on it, but for the most part, it worked for me. However, the movie does warrant probably being saved for Netflix or Redbox because it doesn't quite have the theater speaker shaking effects that the rest of them do. So this is a tough call, but I enjoyed it, and it could very well be the best movie of the 3 this week. But I've got 2 more to do before I can compare those. So we're going to have to hold out on that session. Regardless, I do warrant saying if you like the historical, like acting, and like kind of the backtrack to simple storytelling, check this movie out. Otherwise, naturally you're going to want to hold out because this doesn't have all the special effects. Robbie K signing off. Please like, share, and tell me what I can do to get better, because I'm always trying to help. Until then, guys, thanks a lot. Bye.